Hi, in this video we're going to learn how to solve absolute value inequalities. So if we have absolute value of some stuff is less than a number, we're going to rewrite this as a compound inequality. And if it's a less than symbol, we're going to use an and statement or a between statement. In other words, we're going to take the opposite of this number is less than the expression that was inside the absolute value. Keep the symbol the same, less than the positive of the number on the other side. So if you have absolute value is less than a number, you're going to rewrite it as a between statement. However, if you have absolute value is greater than or greater than or equal to some number, that is going to be an or statement. We're going to write two parts. The left part is the expression that was inside the absolute value. Reverse the order of the sign. So now it's a less than or equal to, and take the opposite of the number on the other side. Write the word or, and your second inequality is the stuff that was inside the absolute value is keep the symbol the same and keep this number positive. So let's do a couple examples, probably one of each type. First, we have absolute value of 3x minus 1 minus 12 is less than 6. Just like when solving absolute value equations, we need to get the absolute value by itself first, so we need to add 12 to both sides of our inequality, leaving us with absolute value of 3x minus 1 is less than 18. Looking up at our notes above, if we have an absolute value is less than some number, absolute value is less than some number, we're going to rewrite it as your between or your and statement. To do that, we're going to take the opposite of this 18. Negative 18 is less than 3x minus 1 is less than positive 18. Now to solve this compound inequality, like you've done in previous lessons, add 1 to all three sides. Negative 17 is less than 3x is less than 19, and then divide all three sides by 3. Here, these numbers will give you repeating decimals, so do not write them as decimals, leave them as fractions. That is one way to write your answer. If you want your answer written in interval notation, like you did previously, let's do a graph first. Here's 0, negative 17 thirds is somewhere to the left of 0, positive 19 thirds somewhere to the right of 0. And because this is a between statement, we'll want the area between them shaded. Neither of them has the equal to bar in it, so both sides will get parentheses, and we're going to shade the area in between. Therefore, in interval notation, your answer would be parentheses, negative 17 thirds, comma, 19 thirds, close your parentheses. That is your answer in interval notation. Do make sure that you give the answer the way that they're asking. If they ask for maybe standard notation or set notation, you would use this. Interval notation, you would use negative 17 thirds, comma, 19 thirds. Remember that this is an interval. It's the range of numbers from negative 17 thirds to 19 thirds. It's not the ordered pair x, comma, y. So our next example, We have -4, absolute value of x plus 2, is less than -28. You might pause for a moment and think, well, an absolute value can't be less than a negative because an absolute value is always positive. But we have this -4 in front. To get rid of this -4 in front, we need to divide both sides of your inequality by -4, which means we have absolute value of x plus 2 is less than 7. I intentionally made a mistake there because I want you to see it. It's super common. When you have an absolute or you have a inequality, and if you divide by a negative, what do you have to do with your symbol? You have to switch or reverse your symbol. All the time I see people make that mistake. And if your symbol looks too much like a 7, put a slash through your 7. Now we have absolute value is greater than some number. When we have an absolute value is greater than some number, we're going to rewrite it as two separate, as a compound inequality with an or in between. I'm actually going to change one thing. Let's change it to less than or equal to, which we'll change that to greater than or equal to. So to rewrite this absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 7 as a compound inequality, drop the absolute values, swap the order of the signs. The sign is going to become a less than or equal to, and change the sign. So we've x plus 2 is less than or equal to -7. Write the word or. And for your other part of the compound inequality, it will just be x plus 2 is greater than or equal to +7. Now we solve each of those parts individually by subtracting 2 from both sides of both inequalities. To get our final answer of x is less than or equal to -9, or x is greater than or equal to 5. If they wanted maybe standard notation or set notation you really have those squiggly brackets that don't really matter, but that's your standard notation. If you wanted interval notation, we should probably graph this first. Put 0 in the middle of your number 9. -9 is somewhere on the left side. 5 is somewhere on the right side. If x is less than or equal to -9, we're going to have a bracket on -9 and shade to the left of that number. If x is greater than or equal to 5, put a bracket under 5 and shade to the right. So therefore, in interval notation, you're shading all the way to -infinity. Always put parentheses on infinities, they kind of rhyme. So we have parentheses, -infinity, comma, -9, bracket. Since there's this break in the middle with nothing that's shaded, we're going to put your union sign. Now we've got a bracket, 5, comma, and we're shaded all the way to the right to +infinity. So there is your answer in interval notation for this absolute value inequality. Thanks for watching.